And Keith Pompey with the Inquirer. How you doing,
I'm good, Keith. How
man?
are
All
you?
right. Question: Why the Sixers?
A lot of reasons. I know there's a winning pedigree here, and I think the whole entire NBA, we're all kind of swimming in the same direction of wanting to win, and it's just a place where I can find myself, you know, being being a big part of winning.
I know you went to high school at West Town. You're from Harlem, right? Originally.
Mhm.
But were you a Sixers fan while you were here for high school?
Um, I actually I kind of developed into a Sixers fan growing up from New York. You want to see the Knicks do well. There's some rough years of me growing up in the city with the Knicks, but when I got to West Town, I seen how passionate Sixers fans were, and I reached all the way out into the suburbs, and it was easy to just want to see them win. We good? No.
Dave Uram from KYW News Radio. Welcome back home. In what ways, Mo, do you think that you can help Joel?
A lot of ways. Me and Joe, we have a great relationship. Remember when I was going through pre-draft and I was looking at what I wanted to do for the next couple of months going into the league, and spoke to Joe. I reached out to Joe, and he was like, "This is the guy who I work with." And from there, our relationship kind of just blossomed. Um, and then even while I was in the league, while I was in Orlando, I reached out to him. He gave me advice on different things and how the way the league works. And just recently, he was a huge driving force into me coming to the Sixers.
When you agreed to come to the Sixers, did you have a chance to chat with him? And if you did, what was the conversation like between you two?
Absolutely. I think leading up into free agency, we chatted a little bit, and then during it, we chatted, and he was like, "Listen, like this might sound a little crazy because we've been playing against each other so much, but he was like, I think Six would be a great fit for you. I don't know exactly what it'll look like as far as just like playing together or not playing together, but I think we can play together because Joe, believe it or not, I believe like he can be positionless. He's such a scoring threat on the floor. He's such a dominant force out there to where it might open up things for other players. And the way how I've been kind of progressing my game to be a stretch five, stretch four, I think is very much of a chance that we could play together. But he was just telling me more things about just his experiences with the league, and things that have been going on. And he's honestly just an easy person to just learn from and just be around.
And I'm Kyle Newbeck with Philly Voice. You
Okay.
mentioned turning into more of a stretch five and adding shooting more and more to your game over the years. I guess what do you think is the next step, the next evolution for you as a
Next,
player?
the next step is for me is just consistency, barring any injuries, just being out there and just doing what I do best, protecting the rim, stretching the floor, and being so much more of a lob threat. I'm really looking forward to playing with the group of guys that we got here. But I think consistency in all things that I do out there on the floor is the biggest thing for me.
Mo, Austin Krell, 97.3
I don't know.
ESPN. How you doing? What have your conversations with Coach Nick Nurse been like so far?
I had a great conversation with Coach Nurse. He joked around with me. He said every time we played the raps that I played well, that I had it out for him. But we had a great conversation. I know that he's one of the most creative coaches since I've been in the league with the lineups that he's put out there. If you look at his championship lineup back in 2018, when I came into the league, he played a lot of two bigs. He played a lot of Serge and Marcus All at the 4-5 slots, and he made it work. And his creativity and watching him blossom as one of the most respected coaches in the league has been fun to watch.
Is that double big lineup something that you and him talked about?
It's not necessarily something we talked about, but when I called him, I told him like, listen, I understand like what's going on here. I understand that nothing would be given, everything would be earned, and he appreciated that. But we talked a little bit about just like vision and where he saw the team going and how he likes to play. I know he likes to play fast. Um, and we talked a little bit more about like the position I played and what I prefer to do, and about how things went in Orlando as far as playing with another big, and it's just a really encouraging conversation I had with Coach. I'm looking forward to seeing him in probably a few days here.
What would you say the biggest misconception about you as a basketball player
Hmm. I would say the biggest misconception about me as a basketball player is probably my love for the game. I think this is I think that's the biggest misconception for a lot of guys who play in the league. Um, this basketball is and I don't speak for everyone, but the guys who I've become good friends with, we're all dialed in and we all really love the game, and because of how much we love the game, that's why we bond so much.
And Sam Giovanni Quespo, it's nice to meet you.
Is that Sam?
Sam.
Sam, nice to meet you, Sam.
Last season with the Los Angeles Lakers, you got your first test of what it's like to make a kind of a deep playoff run, like what the Sixers are trying to do here.
Mhm.
Do you feel like just being in that environment with a lot of high-level veterans helped prepare you for what you're expecting here?
Big time. That playoff run was special in a lot of different ways because we were all brought in at the trade deadline. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to play due to injuries, but just seeing how guys prepare to play the game and seeing how cerebral Bron and D'Lo and AD and all of those guys was quite the sight to see. But I remember when you're injured, you come in early and you leave late, and I remember seeing a lot of those dudes like come in just as early and leave just as late, even though they were playing. So it was a lot of learning points, a lot of lessons picked up along the way in my short stint with LA.
Adam Aronson from WIP. Nice to meet you.
Mhm.
You've mentioned a lot about two big lineups. I know you didn't really play as parts of those a lot with the Lakers, but you did a lot in Orlando with Wendell Carter, I think Kevin Garching, and even Vucevic your rookie year.
Mhm.
What do you think is the key to making that sort of lineup successful?
I think the biggest key is it's never offensively. Obviously, like a little bit of it is spacing. I think a too big. I got you. Don't worry. A too big line. A too big lineup only really works if you have a back to the basket player in one big. Say you're 5 man, the 4 man needs to be a really good shooter. Um, it's just for spacing. It gets really frustrating when you go to like your jump hook and the paint being clogged, or if you go to your face up and there's a guy just standing, kind of hugging the lane, the 2-9 guy kind of hugging the lane. But defensively, I think in order to put out a too big lineup there's a level of defensive versatility that needs to be out there. Um, it could work with two guys in the drop coverage. It might be a little harder because of the direction of the game. A lot of fours are, you see a lot more Jonathan Isaac and Jaden McDaniels, and even Nas Reed's at the 4. Those guys can really put it down on the floor and, you know, do a couple things. As opposed to when I first got in the league, they were kind of more of like stretch fours who were just kind of pick and pop guys. But defensively, if you have a level of versatility out there with a guy who can switch, guy who can rim protect, a guy who can do a lot of different things, I think that'll definitely help the lineup.
Noah Levitt and Split Philly. I spoke to Pat Beverly earlier.
Mhm.
Told this story of finding you in a parking garage and, said he has a lot of respect for you, but
Yeah.
wondering like what your perspective was on that incident and your impressions of him as one of your teammates.
What incident? No, I'm joking. It was really nothing even worth bringing up. One of the first guys, I think the first guy, hit up barring Joel after I signed to the Sixers was Pat. Just because I know his work ethic, I know his drive, I know how much he puts into the game, and that's something I admired. And one thing I told him is like, you're one of the guys who I really wanted to play with, to share the court with. And I think there's a lot I can learn from him. He's a guy who never really missed the playoffs. He made a play in last year, and there's just a lot I can learn from him. Defensively, I think offensively he doesn't get enough credit as a passer and as a leader, floor general, and it's going to be really interesting to get out there and not only compete with him in practice, but to play with him finally.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Thank you, Mo.
Appreciate you guys.
Photo ops,
Yeah.